Hello, this is Brian Lysing with Financial Brokerage, and today's webinar we're going to tackle a potential tax to pay for a long-term care plan sponsored potentially by your state. For those of you who may not be familiar with Financial Brokerage, we are a national insurance marketing organization working with insurance agents and advisors all around the country in the areas of life insurance, long-term care, critical illness, disability insurance, Medicare supplements, and annuities. I'm one of our life insurance specialists over here for the last 20 plus years, and today we're going to tackle what happened in the state of Washington last year and how it might be affecting your state coming up. We'll go over what happened in the state of Washington, why it happened, some of the problems they encountered, and how you can help your clients get a policy that may exempt them from a similar tax in your own state. So what states might this affect? Well, you can see them on the screen. Washington last year enacted a payroll tax to pay for a state-based long-term care program. So they've already done this, and 12 other states are considering doing something similar. This is information that came to us from one of our partner companies nationwide, and I don't know how far along these states are in their progress, at what level it is with the legislatures. All we know is that there's been some sort of progress made towards a proposal to enact a similar law. Now, if you don't see your state listed, I will tell you that just because your state isn't listed, your state is facing the same problems that has led these 12 states, or 13, if you count Washington, to consider this. They're all facing the same problems coming up in the next 20 years or so. So it's important to know about what's coming. And who knows, your clients may be looking to move to one of these states anyway, so you never know. So what exactly happened in the state of Washington last year? If any of you on the webinar right now are in the state of Washington, you're well aware of this, and you'd maybe like it to be done and over with. That's probably not the case. But for those of you outside of Washington, here's what we were dealing with a year ago. The state of Washington implemented what they call the Washington Cares Fund, or longer named the Long-Term Care Services and Supports Trust Program. That's a mouthful, but it was really the first state-mandated social insurance program for long-term care in the United States, and it was enacted by their legislature. So how does it work? Well, first off, it's funded by a tax on payroll, which happens to be 0.58% of a person's income, or 58 cents for every $100 earned. Now, for a person making $100,000, it works out to be $580 a year. It's not that much necessarily, but still it's a tax. You'd like to know what you're getting for that tax. What we don't know is if the tax is going to stay the same. The way they wrote the law, it could go up. We know benefits were designed to be able to be increased as expenses go up in the future. However, the benefits could go down, and the benefit only provides just over $36,000 a year in long-term care benefits to the recipients, not nearly enough to pay the full cost of care for anybody, even today, let alone in the future. Now, Washington did give its residents a opportunity to opt out of this payroll tax, and they had to have comparable coverage in force by November 1st of last year. That could have been a traditional long-term care policy. It could have been a life insurance policy with a long-term care rider. They did not establish how much coverage you needed. So we all did a little bit of guessing, trying to make sure that people had coverage equal to what the new law would be providing currently to those clients. So that's what Washington did. I think they still have not yet started collecting the payroll tax. They did have several problems with the rollout of this law, which we'll certainly be covering. But why does this matter outside of Washington? Well, why does this matter in your state, right? Why are 12 other states considering doing something similar? Well, we know the cost of care continues to increase every single year. If you caught last week's webinar, we reviewed a couple of cost of long-term care insurance calculators that are available to you from a couple of our companies here. And, you know, right now, I think in most states, the cost of, say, nursing home care is going to be around $100,000, and it's only going up. States are under a lot of pressure, you know, with their budgets right now, and a lot of people end up using Medicaid to pay for their long-term care needs. They don't have the insurance that they should have had, and they have gone through all of their assets, and now they qualify for Medicaid, which means the state is paying for their long-term care. Well, it's a problem right now. States are in a budget crunch, but it's going to be a bigger problem coming up because of all the baby boomers. This year, they're all going to end up being between the ages of 58 and 76. What happens in the next 20 years? Well, they'll be primarily in their 80s and 90s, exactly the age range where you see people start to need long-term care. If the states are having trouble keeping up with expenses now, what's it going to look like 20 years from now? So you can see, even if your state isn't currently considering something like this, there's a good chance that they will be. They're going to have to do something to take care of this issue. All right, so I mentioned there were some problems with the plan that the state of Washington rolled out. And one problem involves people who are near retirement age. You see, they included a 10-year vesting requirement, which means you have to pay that payroll tax for 10 years before you're eligible for benefits. So what happens to the person who is 62 and they're planning to retire at age 65 in 3 years? Sorry, you don't get the benefit. We know you paid in the tax. We appreciate that. We'll use that money to help the people that were younger than you and are paying in for 10 years. You can understand that those people don't like that very much. What if you move to another state, right? What if you're in Washington now, but you've got family, I don't know, let's say in Colorado or Wisconsin. You want to move there. Well, sorry, this only applies to Washington residents. You cannot take this benefit with you, even though you paid in. And once again, they'll thank you very much for your tax money to help out the other people. Something I didn't put on the slide, what if somebody moves into the state of Washington from another state and they didn't have an opportunity to opt out of the tax by having comparable coverage in place? Sorry, you missed your chance. You were supposed to be in Washington when we enacted this. Another issue, high earners. There's no cap on this tax. So at some income levels, people may very well pay in more in the tax than they would ever receive in benefits coming back out of this plan. Right? They didn't put a cap out there. So those are some of the problems that Washington is facing. Now, some things we don't know. Will there be a time frame for clients to obtain personal coverage in order to opt out of the tax? In Washington, they enacted this, I think it passed maybe in early 2021, and people had till November 1st to have something in place. We really didn't see an influx of applications over here until maybe August. I mean, there were a few, but people really started to pay attention at the last minute. And this was a huge problem for all the insurance companies because they saw an unprecedented increase in applications coming in their doors in August and early September. In fact, after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, we saw the first company put an end to those policies that qualified for the exemption. They would stop taking them from the state of Washington. And after 4, maybe 6 weeks, every company that had an eligible policy put an end to that. They could not process any more applications. So if a client was waiting till the end of September to try to meet the November 1st deadline, they had no options. There was nothing left available in the state. So to avoid that problem, what it sounds like is that many of these states are not going to open up any sort of window for clients to obtain policies. They may just make it active from the day they passed the law. Either you had a policy at that point in time or you didn't. Again, we don't know for sure if this is happening and in what states, but it's very possible that they do that to avoid the problem, which means you need to act now to help your clients get something in place, right, so that they don't have to worry about that. We also don't know what the qualifications are for a policy to be able to opt out. Washington left it pretty open. They just said, hey, you need to have comparable coverage. We don't know if there's going to be a certain amount. We can make an educated guess, though, which is what we did last year in Washington. And, of course, we don't know if these laws will be passed, but there's a good chance that these states will have to do something. Now, what do we think we know is going to happen? Well, I think these are pretty safe bets here. The state of Washington specified the exact type of policy and the exact type of rider that would qualify clients for the exemption from the tax. And these are actually some of the same qualifications that apply to some of the long-term care tax breaks that are available. In fact, we're going to be covering those in a webinar next Wednesday, May 18th, the different tax breaks that are available to individuals and all the different types of businesses. A lot of people aren't aware of that. And those actually apply to riders on life insurance policies too. So same qualifications apply, which means that we're using traditional LTC policies or true LTC riders, which means they're filed under 7702T. And if you're not familiar with the difference in the riders on the life insurance policies, here's a little breakdown. Most policies, or most companies, I should say, utilize what's referred to as a chronic illness rider. In fact, they cannot use the word long-term care in the name of the rider. They're filed, these two riders are filed under different tax codes, which you can see there. The original chronic illness riders said that you qualify by losing 2 of 6 ADLs or severe cognitive impairment, and your condition has to be permanent. Almost all of them have taken off that permanency requirement. So now you can qualify with a temporary loss of abilities, right? I'd be hard pressed to find a company that still had the permanency language in there. And most companies use this. It costs them a lot less in administrative expenses to utilize a rider like this. In fact, some of these riders are just built into certain products out there. A client really can't opt to not have the rider in there, and you're not paying anything for it up front. Some of them will charge you on the back end. Some do charge on the front end. Now, those type of riders do not qualify for the exemption, at least in the state of Washington. What did qualify were true LTC riders, which means not only do you have to have a life license, you have to have your health license. Most of us get the combined life and health, so that won't be a big deal. But it does happen where someone doesn't have a health license. On top of that, you have to have your long-term care continuing education credits, and those have to be current every 2 years. Easy way to take care of that is, when you have to take your CE credits, just make sure one of the courses qualifies for that. then you have nothing to worry about. But some people don't currently have that. With these policies and riders, the long-term care benefit may be designed so that it's greater than the death benefit for the client. You don't see that with the chronic illness riders. So those are the type of riders that qualified in the state of Washington. And over here at Financial Brokerage, we keep close track of who offers what. And you know what? Every month it's probably changing as companies come out with different products. But there are certainly less products and companies available with this true LTC rider. Now, what else do we know? Let's, and this is sort of a what if, well, this is all a what if situation, but we're going to go down a different path here. What if your state never enacts a law like this? What if it looks completely different, right? And you help your client get a policy that would, what we think, keep them from having to pay this potential tax? Well, it's actually a good thing, because we know most Americans need more life insurance anyway. Right? If we're going to put a rider on a life policy, half of the people in this country don't have any personally owned life insurance. They might be relying on their employer, which gives them hardly anything. Maybe it pays for a funeral and a little bit more. So half of the people don't have any life insurance. Half of those who do have coverage don't have enough. People aren't doing reviews and updating and doing a new needs analysis every few years with their clients. So that means to me that 3/4 of the country needs more life insurance anyway. Who cares if there's a tax that they're getting out of? They need more life insurance. We also know that over 50% of those people over 65 are going to need long-term care at some point in their lives. Everybody insures their home, everybody insures their automobile, and you have a far less than 50% chance of filing a claim on those things. I don't know why people don't have coverage on something where you've got a greater than 50-50 chance of needing the insurance. So your clients need this policy anyway. This just gives you another reason to bring it up to them, to get in the door, to start that discussion about the coverage that they should be purchasing anyway. All right, so another look at the states that are considering this legislation. From the information we received from Nationwide, the state of California is expected to be next. In fact, they may have something in place as early as next year. To our knowledge, the other states are a little bit farther behind. But again, if you see your state listed, there is something in the works already. You want to start having these discussions with your clients over the summer. Start setting those appointments so that they know what might be coming, and they can get the coverage in place that they really need to have anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions here in just a second, but I do want to put in quick little promotion for the next 2 webinars in our life-based long-term care series. Next Wednesday, May 18th at noon Eastern, we will have our friends from Securian explaining some of the tax breaks that are available to individuals, to various businesses, how you can use HSA funds to pay for life-based LTC, and how Securian's Secure Care product is uniquely positioned to make it easy for people to take advantage of these tax breaks. And then on Wednesday, May 24th, we're going to have our friends from Nationwide present another idea which involves high net worth individuals, people who have enough money to self-insure for long-term care, and why they might not want to, why it might be a bad idea from an estate tax perspective to do that. Again, it gives you a reason to get in the door and hopefully help those clients out again. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning, and we'll go ahead and get to the questions here next.